Everyone, welcome. Phakathi, would you like to open the space for us?
Midzimu ya thoni na ya Dzomo Mupo Risamuti Musiki the creator, the spirit Mbeuki Murapo Musha Divasha Rilila ili shango lochinyiwaho vana vako todo amba vako katanga nayo dzavo makurukuku kha shango lavo makurukuku wavo kha milambo na dzithavha na madaka na vutshilo na kulangele kwa vutshilo mbeuki kha ri fhatutshedziwe ri rwiwe nga phepho ringe vhaṅwe ri rwiwe nga muya ringe vhaṅwe. The voices of the youth to Mupo, the creator. Remisana Mupo, the finger millet.
I give thanks to Makazana for opening this space with her prayer, her force, her channel to Mupo, Great Spirit, Mother Earth, Father Time. I feel safe and connected in this space. I hope you all do too. Thank you so much for joining this webinar, which was honestly the most fun I've had co-creating in a long time. The process we went through was beautiful. We collaborated with 12 incredible youth from Southern Africa to curate and design this webinar. We started the process on November 18th in a design workshop where we found which topics to explore, the schedule, the technicalities, the speakers, the timing, the co-hosts. In fact, two of the youth from this design workshop will be the speakers today. It's very exciting. This process also helped me realize something, that the story of humanity began long before the first human was born. There has been eras of light and darkness, chapters of pain and beauty, all in tribute to evolution. And through the era of humanity, there have been seers and seekers who have pierced through the most profound and ancient and pure forces on this planet. They are part of indigenous communities who hold the blueprints for living in harmony, in synchrodestiny and integrity with nature. We have lost a lot of this knowledge. However, I find that there's a revolution happening as we speak that is weaving this wisdom and knowledge back into our ways of living and our paradigms. This webinar seeks to shed light on the complexities of this revolution and to bring up to the stage those who are going to be leading it, our youth. I'd like to thank the group of 12 kings and queens who designed this space. I'd like to thank the speakers who will fill this space with insights and thought catalysts, and the co-hosts who are helping us hold the space in honor of the younger generations. The bios of the co-hosts, Ancient Wisdom, Dzomo la Mupo, Earthrise Collective, ISAN Magazine, Project Biome, and Mycelium Media Colab will be posted in the chat. And thank you to our graphic harvester, Claire, who you'll be able to catch glimpses of her creation on the webinar screen, which depicts the journey of this webinar through her art. And especially thank you to all of you willing to hear the voices of those who are sometimes forgotten in our modern systems, our youth, our wisdom holders. Just some technicalities, please use the Q&A section if you have a question for the speakers. We'll hopefully have enough time to answer them, but just know we'll be sending a follow-up and all questions unanswered will be responded to in the follow-up. We'll have an interactive session towards the end of the hour to explore the prompts that the youth have chosen. Every participant here will move to a breakaway room, which will be divided by each prompt. It will be explained in the chat when it's time. Finally, please feel free to add your clan name to your participant name on this webinar here, so we know who you are and where you come from. First up, I would like to welcome Rutendo Ngara. Rutendo Ngara is an African indigenous knowledge systems practitioner and transdisciplinary researcher who has traversed clinical engineering, healthcare, technology management, the socioeconomic development, mathematics, leadership, and fashion design to the interface between science, culture, cosmology, and paradigms of healing. She has a passion for weaving art, science, and spirituality towards healing of the collective and restoration of the whole. Thank you, Rutendo.
Thank you so much, Shanti. It is such a privilege to be invited into this youth-led webinar on indigenous knowledge systems. And we give gratitude for the opening by Makadzi Pateleni, whose ululations give credence to the voices of the youth. We also give gratitude to you, Shanti, for charting the way. It is no coincidence that this webinar takes place on a new moon. In African ancient cosmology, this new moon is the opener of the way. It is a new moon that is at once the trickster, while it weighs the heart to make sure we're living according to the truth. It is the new moon that is the garbage collector. This new moon is represented by the hyena, the fox, the wolf, the canine. He is Mpungushe, he is Elegba, he is Eshu, he is Sebek. This is the archetype of communication and information. He governs our beliefs, he governs the crossroads. And it is at this crossroad that I wish to tell a story. Now, the African continent is home to an incredible system of rivers with an intricate network of tributaries connecting streams, lakes, springs, pools, deltas, waterfalls, and oceans. As a continent, it boasts the longest river in the world, the Nile River, which travels a distance of more than 6,650 kilometers from the Great Lakes region south of the equator and the highlands of the ancient land of Kush, now known as Ethiopia, traveling through 9 countries before draining into the Mediterranean Sea. As a continent, it boasts the deepest and most powerful river in the world, the Congo River, its depths reaching in excess of 220 meters, while discharging more than 50,000 cubic meters of water per second. Africa is also home to the river with one of the most unusual routes in the world, the Niger, which travels an obscure boomerang course that has baffled geographers for more than 2 centuries. This continent furthermore boasts the Zambezi, the river that flows into the largest single curtain of water on the planet. This is Musiwatunya, one of the 7 wonders of the world. But why am I talking about rivers? Well, according to indigenous knowledge of Africa, and indeed the ancient wisdoms across the globe, everything is a teacher. Knowledge lies everywhere, and in all things lies wisdom. But perhaps the greatest source of this wisdom is nature. And by nature, I mean a bit more than that which lies at the edge of the city, or the bushveld, the outback, or the countryside into which we may escape now and then. We may describe nature as that which is untouched by human technology, the ecosystem, that which is natural. From an etymological point of view, we may borrow from the Latin natura, which denotes birth, origin, natural constitution, or innate quality. Or we can go back into our ancient African roots from Kemet and speak of Neter, which, according to the fact that Kemetic hieroglyphic language did not record vowels, is often written as NTR. As we see, it's the same as nature. Many scholars translate NTR or Neter as God of gods, the divine force or the sustaining power which is retained in the Coptic language as Mutar, and finally renders itself into common language as nature. But for many who practice the ancient ways of Kemet, Neter is the supreme being and everything else. It is the creator and the uncreated. It is the being that synthesizes and pervades life in all realms. Neter is the undefined, formless nothingness that is at the same time the underlying factor of all things in the world. Neter is all that is. Rivers that I have spoken about are an inherent part of Neter. Rivers, these mobile bodies of water, are agents of indigenous knowledge systems. Now, I have spoken about 4 rivers, but I'd like to pinpoint on one. The Niger River, as I said, is very obscure. Its source is the Guinea Highlands, a mere 250 kilometers from the Atlantic Ocean. Yet instead of following the course of commonly understood logic by traveling those 240 kilometers to the ocean via a northeasterly direction, it instead moves further into the Sahara Desert into Mali. Instead of moving the shortest route of 240 kilometers, instead of following that course towards Mali, it moves its way, turning right at the city of Timbuktu before it meanders through Niger, Benin, and Nigeria, and eventually discharges into the Atlantic Ocean at the Gulf of Guinea. What would have been a 240-kilometer journey to the ocean instead becomes a sinuous, crescent-shaped 4,180 kilometers of river. As a consequence of this highly inefficient route, the Niger loses 2/3 of potential due to seepage and evaporation. Its gradient drastically decreases, and thus it further reduces its flow potential and precipitates a very slow and sluggish trek towards the ocean. The result of this inefficiency, the result of this loss of potential, is the formation of the Niger Delta, a series of braided streams, marshes, and lakes as far as Belgium. This Niger Delta is the largest wetland in Africa, the 3rd largest in the world, with an ecosystem containing one of the highest concentrations of biodiversity on the planet. And apart from supporting abundant rainforests, flora, and fauna, it has large stretches of arable land that sustains diverse agricultural systems. It is home to more than 30 million people made up of 40 different ethnic groups. This river, this delta, the result of an inefficient river, is effective. It is effective at creating a wellspring of diversity and nourishment. It is effective at bringing forth life. Now, the tale of this river is the tale of indigenous knowledge systems, or African spirituality, or African ways of knowledge. What we learn from this river is that when we speak about indigenous knowledge systems, we're speaking about something with varying conceptions. It is those systems of knowledge in philosophy, science, technology, astronomy, education, mathematics, and engineering that are grounded in the total cultural heritage of a nation or society and maintained by communities over centuries. This is a knowledge that relates to technology, to society, to institutions, to development. This is knowledge that is about economics and philosophical learning, as well as, sorry, I see something has come up, as well as around legal and governance systems. It is the totality of all knowledges and practices, whether implicit or explicit, used in the management of socio-economic, spiritual, and ecological facets of life. This knowledge has its roots in community. It has its roots in all forms which are a result of interaction between social and spiritual relations. It is a tacit knowledge transmitted through initiation or via demonstration or via observation. It is experiential rather than theoretical. It is inherently interlinked with the understanding of the environment, and it is dynamic and constantly adapting. These attributes are attributes of a river. It is regenerative knowledge that has sustained communities and the environment the world over. It is an ecological knowledge that has integrated communities of ways of knowing and ways of acting on the knowing. It is a knowledge of both plurality and singularity. This is a knowledge that brings together a web of interconnectedness, interrelatedness, and interdependence. This is a knowledge that brings forth ma'at, Ubuntu. These attributes are the attributes of a river. Like a river, indigenous knowledge charts history. It charts the direction of knowledge. It is meandering. It moves around nooks and crannies. It traverses nuances. It examines all contours. It collects, it deposits, it nourishes, it nurtures, it feeds, it cleanses in order to acquire a full body of knowledge. And as, apart from the limits of the banks which give shape to form, they go beyond boundaries, these rivers. They move with gravity and sometimes venture against it, such as the Niger River. Rivers come in multiple forms and traverse many mediums. They are not limited by disciplines, but are limited only by the great expanse of life. They do not take the shortest route. They take the most accommodating route. Rivers do not take the most efficient route. They take the most effective route. Like indigenous knowledge systems, rivers take everything into consideration and thus everyone with them on the journey. Rivers, like indigenous knowledge systems, are the oracle. They are diviner. They are a seer. They are reflective and they follow all the aspects of nature. And from rivers, we learn that in indigenous knowledge systems, knowledge, the knower, and the one who knows, and praxis, the practice of one who knows, are one. They are united. But perhaps we can learn another lesson from the Niger River. In taking the way the less traveled, it seeks to find the other. It moves away from the ocean and eventually goes to the desert. But it is only from the desert that it eventually goes to the plains, through the plains of the Sahara to the Atlantic Ocean. So indigenous knowledge systems like this river go beyond the science of linearity. They tell us about Ubuntu, the interdependence, interconnectedness, and interrelatedness between time and space, between humans, non-rational beings, and the intangible. They tell us about Sankofa, the feedback systems between that which has gone before, that which exists now, and that which will come. These quantum principles are inherently integrated, interdisciplinary, participatory, ecological. They engage in systems thinking. They employ a stewardship for nature and recognize the sentience of water and its beings and the sentience of all of nature. This indigenous paradigm is one that moves beyond linearity and results to circularity and a cyclical way of being. And in this way, when we know this knowledge, we can have our ceremonies, we can have our prayers, we can have our rituals, we can have our practices that have sustained nature, sustained societies, sustained the environment, sustained the economy for generations and generations and millennia. And it is those that do this that we call our rainmakers. These are our leaders. These are those that bring forth indigenous knowledge systems. Our indigenous knowledge systems are the knowledge systems that listen to the rhythm of the ocean, the language of the rivers, the codes of the mountains, the breath of the wind, the words of the words, the silent steps of the elephant, the branches of the forest. This is a knowledge that brings us into dominion, not domination, into communion, not contamination. It is a knowledge that brings us into harmony and resonance with the essence of life itself. Humanity needs to learn the language of indigenous knowledge systems. And when we do that, we may find possibilities for creativity and innovation. We may find possibilities for mitigation and transformation. We may find possibilities for healing and restoration. We may find that actually indigenous knowledge systems are an injunction, a cosmology, a philosophy, and a methodology to love. I thank you.
Wow. Thank you so much, Gogo Rutendo. That powerful share took us through a journey. If there are any questions, please let us know. The name of the speaker, Rutendo Ngara, which we posted the bio for earlier in the chat. We'll post it again. Yeah, incredible knowledge and story. Thank you so much. And to keep to time, we'd like to go to our next beautiful speaker. Thank you, Rutendo, for opening the space with your knowledge and your experience. And now our incredible youth leader, Bonolo, Sister Bonolo.
My name is Bonolo Mataboge, and as you can see, I live within a farming environment, but not just a farming environment, but an indigenous one, and that is because my family runs a business called African Marmalade, which focuses on taking African food out of the periphery and into the mainstream. And why, you might think, that might be necessary while we're living in an African country, while South Africa's food system is actually quite American. We've now introduced a lot of processed food and things that actually aren't our traditional foods. For example, the pap you enjoy eating every day. And you might think, hey, well, the truth is that maize only came with our colonial brothers and sisters in the 1600s. So the food we actually should be eating is sorghum more than another. But why we should also care a little bit more about our sorghum is because it is a crop that is actually going to survive this insane weather we're currently experiencing. So just like COVID gave us a little bit of me time, I do think this is a bit of a blessing in disguise, because we're going to have to adjust our diets whether we like to or not, but this is for our own good. You don't have to take my word for it. You can read the following resources.
Welcome to episode 17 of Bloody Diaries, and today we're talking about an African crop that you don't know about that you should know about. I happily introduce you to the African horn cucumber, which is native to Southern Africa. So unlike its boring smooth-skinned cousin, it is highly nutritious. Not only is it hydrating, but is packed full of vitamins and minerals and is a great source of iron and protein. The best kept secret about a lot of African crops is that they are highly nutritious, so honestly, malnutrition and a lot of the issues we have in the continent should not exist. If we all make a conscious effort to make our diet more indigenous, we'll do both a great service to our environment and to our bodies. So I dare you to go out there and try this delicious fruit and do both your nation and your body a great service. Bon appetit!
Why I say that Sibula Bulelani is not just because we're eating things that aren't good for our bodies, but we are also not following our indigenous systems because we relate them to poverty. But the poverty we're actually experiencing is because we aren't planting our own indigenous plants that our grandparents probably know how to grow really well. For example, sorghum. So, with that in mind, researchers not only in South Africa but worldwide have found things like that esophageal cancer within South Africa is being heightened by us Black South Africans not eating our indigenous crops like sorghum. So the only culture we can really credit for doing the right thing is Botswana for eating it. So please do carry on, and if you're not part of the club, join it. So while a lot of our brothers and sisters are feeling their callings to listen to our ancestors, one calling we should all follow is how our ancestors gardened, because they knew what they were doing, and our crops are climate smart and super duper healthy. And even our ancestors' farming techniques that didn't include machinery were quite innovative and successful, as you can see for yourself.
Welcome to episode 12 of Bloody Diaries, and today we're looking at how we put that nasty pool water to use. As you can imagine, the pool was a cesspool of mysterious organic materials that had fallen into it, and we decided, well, that nature likes nature, so why not return it back to nature through channeling it into the field? Basically took a page out of Egyptian history and created a canal system that would flow from the pool and into the fields, and would basically channel the water from one line to the next until it was completely irrigated. Doing this ensured that we weren't just watering the tops of the crops, but that the water would basically go deep into the roots, and Sfiso was on top of moving the water from one line to the other using soil and stones, nothing complicated.
Water had an incredible reach and we were able to irrigate all of the planted beds and even a little bit further. The water was pretty nutritious with algae and whatever other organic material was in it. We're gonna call whatever gunk came out of it pool manure, and we hope that the plants absolutely flourish from this. And we also have our pool now.
So I call on you to swipe right on your ancestors and their knowledge and ingest what will not just feed you internally but externally too, and not only let you survive but thrive through the next chapters of your life. Until next time, bye!
Thank you so much, Sister Bonolo. As you can see, we have the most creative and wonderful presentations. Our speakers are available right now if there are any questions. And yeah, or comments, the floor is open. And it will continue to be open. You can just pop your questions into the chat. We'll take note of them. And yeah, thank you so much, Bonolo. It's been wonderful. Yeah. And up next is Sister Keamo, who will be touching on indigenous knowledge systems as a tool for decolonization and paradigm shifting. She has created a beautiful share for us. And yeah, welcome, Keamo.
Over a period of 400 years, it has taken 4,094 individuals to create you. Let that ancestral math settle in for a second. That's 400 years of knowledge passed down through blood, through time, through experiences of love and connection, through travel, through culture, through traditions, and these knowledge systems that have been put in place for the continuation of our bloodlines. These knowledge systems have not only breathed life into the continuation of our survival on this beautiful planet, but they also contain the blueprints that we can draw from in order to create something valuable to leave behind for the generations to come. Good evening, Dimadekwana, Molweni, Jambo, Salam, Dumelang. My name is Keamo Rakgoadi, and I am a very proud and excited youth to be here in this moment with you in this conversation. So the world as we know it is crumbling. Its systems are crumbling right before our eyes. And this is as a result of the wars and the atrocities and all the apathy surrounding it. We're really being called at this point in our history as the youth to reimagine, to reshape, and think about how we want to move forward. We need to be the change and represent and reflect the change that we want to see in the world. And with this reflection, this reimagination, comes the power of the word decolonization. Decolonization is this term that we use in the reclaiming of what was lost over time, such as our land, our languages, our values, and valuable education systems that contain information and knowledge of our history in its truth, as opposed to the colonialist tale of our ancient. Decolonization starts with thinking about how it can be of service to us in our lives at this point. It is the reclaiming of natural resources and remedies delivered right from the earth that our ancients have told us about in order to heal ourselves. It's the reclaiming of our identity as Africans and the principles that govern the way in which we move and treat one another. You know, in isiZulu we have the term umuntu ngumuntu ngabantu, kaSisuthu kimutu kabathu, which translates to a person is a person because of other people. I am because this thinking should shape the way in which we move as natives to this land. And with that comes solving this continent's problems with African solutions. We cannot keep feeding our resources, our beauty, everything that really makes up who we are at our root to the rest of the world without enjoying and embodying and nurturing that harvest for ourselves. It's important for us to recognize that these indigenous knowledge systems are our generational wealth. These indigenous knowledge systems are our generational wealth. It cannot be valued against any capitalist notion. It cannot be valued against any Western notion, because this is our generational wealth. As the youth, this also shines light on how we go about solving these issues around the statistics of unemployment, of poverty, that cast a large shadow on our identity as a youth in this country, on this continent, and the world at large. It comes with valuing ancient practices of farming and agriculture, of tending to our communities, to our elders, to our land, and all the preservation of that feeds into our roots. And knowing that as the upgrade of our lineages, we really have the power to evolve and imagine our traditions and cultures in a way that really seeks to serve who we are in our daily lives and on our way forward. Decolonizing our minds and our way of thinking will seek to serve and to fill the gap between the knowledge that was left behind for us by our ancients, by our ancestors, and where we are right now as young Africans and our identity, the parts of us that have been lost through time, lost through colonization, through expectations for us to fit this Western paradigm of identity, of thinking as youth. This decolonization will help govern our own moral compass, our internal moral compass, towards seeking the truths of our identities.
Wow, what a powerful share, Keamo. Thank you so much. I'm truly an activist and a new earth scholar and a seeker of ancient wisdom. And she is a co-creator of Goddess Rising podcast, which I'm very excited to listen to. Thank you all for the speakers. We have one more after this interactive session, which we designed with the youth from the workshop. So in this session, we will be watching a video, and we hope that with the shares, you have an understanding of this context of indigenous knowledge systems and its relevance to today. We'll be sharing this video to prompt some thoughts, some feelings from Charles Eisenstein, who worked with indigenous communities and crafted this video that does incite feelings and thoughts. And then we will break away in 3 rooms according to prompts that we will post in the chat. And you can choose which room you go to according to the prompt that you'd like to explore together with the few dozens of people here present. So thank you so much, Steph. We can play the video. Thank you so much. The prompts that we'll be exploring as groups are: how can indigenous knowledge systems support youth today? Number one. Number two is, what feelings come up for you from the video? And number three, how does what you have seen here impact your life? The breakaway rooms are named, and you can choose which room you go into. Incredible share as the room closed, and that just prompted, if you have any links to your organizations, your projects, please post them in the chat. There's some really incredible work happening out there. Such an honor to be amongst all of you. We are going to go to our final speaker, which will close the webinar. I'd like to welcome Sister Tracy, and it is also an offering and a prayer and a beautiful share. Thank you so much to everyone here, all the speakers.
Thokozani, Makhosi, Amagu, Lisedi, Khanya, Thobela. Blessed greetings on the new moon of Sebek, aka Anpu, aka Usomnonganise, igama lami kuTracy Lee, sibongo sam kuBaal McCartney, Lingenfelder, Frampton. Umndeni wami uvela eScotland, nase-Ireland, nase-England, nase-Scandinavia. Ngizalwa futhi ngihlala eGoli, Khwandonga ziyaduma. Sibonga ukuhlangana namuhla, siyabulela inkosi, yaleboha, ndwalevuha, tatenda. We give thanks for coming together today in the ancient future wisdom of our ancestors, those who came before us, those who walk among us, and those still to come. And we give thanks to you, our future ancestors, our children, our youth, our seeds, who have called us together to share in how indigenous knowledge is relevant to contemporary life, present global problems, current youth needs and interests, decoloniality and its challenges, and global citizenship. In this time of great crises and transformation, of death and rebirth, in this living time of the ancient future prophecies, where we are being asked to go back to our ancient roots to gather what we need in the present in order to reimagineer our future. As a child of the colonizer, finding myself born and grown in South Africa from settler seed, and finding myself in the field of African and global indigenous knowledge systems, and having the blessing of being and re-educated, conscientized, and reconditioned, I have often been asked and asked myself the questions: who am I and what am I doing here? Who are my people? Where do I come from? Am I indigenous? What is my indigenous knowledge? What led my people away from this and into the role they played in creating the toxic, violent culture we find ourselves in now? What is my role in this? How can I live this differently? This has led and continues to lead me into an inquiry into what are our most ancient human histories, mysteries, long before our modern human histories. What were our stories before all this? More and more I have come to remember and to return home to my roots as a child of the earth and a child of the stars. We are the living ancestors of the past, here now in the present, the fruits of our histories, the seeds of our future, both recent and distant. Our roots run deep into the soils of the earth. Our branches reach far into the stardust of the skies. We are the children of the stars and the earth, of stardust and soil, of ancient future mysteries. It is time for us to remember. We are the children of the south, the north, the east, the west, above, below, and all directions, center, within and without, above and below. Children of the one heart drum. We come to be seen and heard and sung and danced in every finite form by infinity. We are the elements, fire, water, earth, and air. We are nature. We are life. We are a living multiplicity. We are eternal, boundless, infinite, immortal in human form for a brief moment. Children of the sun, the earth, the moon, and the stars. Children of ancient forests, volcanoes, ice, and seas. Children of rivers, mountains, valleys, and caves. Cosmic ancestors of seeds, trees, and infinity. Children of Great Father Sky and Great Mother Earth, may we remember who and what we are. Amen. Ashe. Amago.
So much, Sister Tracy. Amago. Ashe. Of course. Thank you all for joining. I hope that you managed to maybe uncover some things, discover other things, connect. There are some incredible things being said in the chat, which we will create a follow-up on. We have all of your email addresses. I will send a follow-up and we will have a recording if you think that any other people would benefit from this webinar. And yeah, a profound thank you for everyone, to the speakers, the co-hosts, the holders of this space, and the beautiful artwork that Claire has been developing throughout this webinar, as you can see there. And thank you so much. Thank you. Have a beautiful, blessed end of year, and happy holidays, and open hearts. You're
Suka Sinemanu Salama. Laugh and hum. Oikai Limani Philapiako. Remember, no to discrimination. Say the names. They, that, gender non-conforming, straight, he, she, gay, lesbian. No to hate. Got a castle, I've 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 got a castle, no to xenophobia, racism, hate, homophobia, transphobia, I've got a knowledge, I've got a castle, Nikomuna, Mphuthi, I've got a castle, remember, I've got a castle, treat each other with respect, unite, equality, umuntu, ngabantu, thandanani, Bulelani, sokhona, ngoba thina siphakaphaka, thina siphakaphaka, for me to share up in my castle on the clouds. And Dishy.